After the gunfights, kidnappings, mortars and airstrikes, more than 1,500 dead. As Israel's Prime Minister says, the retaliation has only just begun. It's 9 o'clock. This is a Sky News special programme, live from Jerusalem. Gaza under siege, no food, water or fuel allowed in for more than 2 million people on the already devastated Strip. Tonight I hear the view from the top of Hamas and an extraordinary claim that no Israeli civilians were harmed. Abducted from a music festival, we'll hear live from the parents of a 21-year-old Israeli woman taken by militants. With up to 100 others still being held, could there be a ground invasion or something much bigger which could reshape this region forever? Motorbikes, drone strikes, bulldozers and paragliders. We show you how Hamas did it and ask if Iran played a role. Good evening from Jerusalem. The devastation is striking by day, but Gaza is in complete darkness tonight. That's because it's under a total blockade. No electricity, no food, no water, no fuel is being allowed in. And here in Israel, a more detailed account of how the attacks unfolded. President Netanyahu confirming that Palestinian gunmen killed handcuffed children. He's warned his country's response will change the Middle East forever. Violence has continued throughout the region today, with more than 1,500 people confirmed to have died. Civilian buildings in southern Israeli cities have been hit by Hamas missiles. Israel says it's struck 1,000 targets, including mosques in Gaza. Tonight we'll hear from those who survived and the families of those abducted. We'll report from the border town of Sderot in the southern Israeli city of Ashdod, from where our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, reports.
Midday in one of Israel's biggest cities, 4 cars ignited by a Hamas rocket. Fiery inferno sending up thick black smoke. A 50-year-old Israeli woman died in the attack. Hai Havi came out onto his balcony to witness these scenes he photographed. His neighbourhood up in flames. What did you think?
They came here. That's what I thought, because, you know, I've been hearing the stories from everything that's happening more on the border, and it was horrifying.
Israel has been menaced all day by rockets from Jerusalem to Ashdod to Tel Aviv. It doesn't matter how effective Israel's anti-missile defence systems are, these rockets are still getting through in their scores. And what's terrifying for the Israelis is the random, sporadic nature of these attacks. They have no idea where or when they're going to fall next, which is why, from what we're seeing, these communities are emptying out people, if they can, fleeing to different parts of Israel. Hamas is defending these attacks. Its spokesman telling Sky News that they are a response to Israel's hostility to Palestinians. The Israeli military is retaliating. It's released these pictures of Gaza being pummeled by its airstrikes and artillery from the air. Ordnance raining down on one of the world's most densely populated places. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said tonight there are still Hamas gunmen in the country, and the action in Gaza had only just started.
The images of the destruction in the Hamas strongholds in Gaza are only the start. We have eliminated hundreds of terrorists, and we will not stop there. I said that every place from which the Hamas operates will turn to rubble. It is already happening today, and it will continue to happen with greater force.
And these are the scenes on the ground. Panic at the sound of incoming attacks. This is the aftermath of one airstrike, children being carried out through smouldering rubble. Mohammed was in a building next door to a mosque, flattened by the Israelis. Says the attack came without warning.
We were just sitting down at home, and they struck us so quickly all at once. They didn't warn us.
Israel says it may not warn ahead of all of its strikes, as it's tried to in the past. The military's language is sounding as uncompromising as its tactics. There's tension on Israel's northern border with Lebanon too. Israel is sending reinforcements, troops and armour in case its Lebanese enemy Hezbollah is tempted to open a second front. Israel says its assault from the air on Gaza will soon be followed up by a ground offensive. Are its enemies waiting for that moment to escalate this war?
We'll speak live to Dominic in just a moment, but first let's go to North London, and this is a vigil, a prayer service being led by the chief rabbi for the victims of the attack on Israel. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, is attending that vigil, one of a number held across the UK today, and he is due to say a few words any moment now.
And we will be strong to face many more years. This Shabbat we read from the beginning of the Torah. And in the biblical account of creation, we see how the world at first was bathed in darkness, but out of that God created light. We see how at first the world was filled with tohu vavohu, chaos, confusion, but that was followed by order and peace. And that tonight is our prayer, that the darkness we are currently experiencing will pave the way for peace for us and the entire region. And the chaos and confusion will lead to a period of order and of peace. May it happen swiftly and decisively and successfully, not only for now, but also for the long term. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, va'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru, amen. May he who makes peace in high places bring peace for us and all the people of Israel, and let us say, amen. It is now my great honor, on behalf of everyone present, to invite the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Rishi Sunak, to address us.
I wanted to come here tonight to stand with you in this hour of grief, as we mourn the victims of an utterly abhorrent act of terror. To stand with you in this hour of prayer, as we think of those held hostage and your friends and loved ones taking refuge in bomb shelters or risking their lives on the front line. And perhaps above all, I wanted to come here tonight to stand with you in solidarity in Israel's hour of need. As the Prime Minister of this country, I am unequivocal. The people who support Hamas are fully responsible for this appalling attack. They are not militants. They are not freedom fighters. They are terrorists. Their barbaric acts are acts of evil. There is no other word to describe what we have seen. Teenagers at a festival of peace, gunned down in cold blood. Innocent men, women, and children abducted, raped, slaughtered. Even a Holocaust survivor taken away as a captive. and much of the sickening evidence posted online. There are not two sides to these events. There is no question of balance. I stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. The United Kingdom stands with Israel against this terrorism today, tomorrow, and always. And let me also say this to you, as the Jewish community here in Britain. I know that at moments like this, when the Jewish people are under attack in their homeland, Jewish people everywhere can feel less safe. We've already seen vile words on our streets and attempts to stir up community tensions. I say, not here. Not in Britain. Not in our country. Not in this century. My first duty is to protect you. We will not tolerate this hate. We will not tolerate this anti-Semitism. And I promise you, I will stop at nothing to keep you safe. And let me just conclude with this thought. In the last few days, we have seen heinous acts, redolent of the worst of humanity. And peace may feel further away than it has in a very long time. But I know this too. The hope of Israel is built on the very best of humanity. This extraordinary land, this democracy, the only one in the Middle East where you can vote, where you can be gay, this technological superpower which delivers breakthroughs in science and medicine that are a gift to the world, this promised homeland of the Jewish people. In the words of the Hatikvah, that hope is not lost, even in these darkest of days, perhaps especially in these darkest of days. Together we hold fast to that hope of 2,000 years. The days and weeks ahead will continue to be very difficult. But when we say that we stand with Israel, we mean it. Not just today, not just tomorrow, but always. And I will stand with you, the British Jewish community, not just today, not just tomorrow, but always. Am Yisrael Chai.
Well, there we are. Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, calling it an abhorrent act of terror, a heinous crime. I am unequivocal, he said. Hamas are not militants. They are not freedom fighters. They are terrorists. There is no question of balance, he said. I stand with Israel. So let's speak to our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, who is in Ashdod in southern Israel. And Dominic, so these are clearly dangerous moments, a total siege of Gaza, the threat of intensified military action and threats too from Hamas.
Yes, and I think the Israelis will be encouraged and consoled by what they heard from the British Prime Minister then, but I think they know that it's not in the day or two after an attack happens that they're worried about international support. They worry about what happens when Israel retaliates to those attacks and then the implications that it has for international support, as Israel has to then take out very difficult, challenging operations from the air and on the ground in Gaza. And it's during the sort of aftermath of that, or the period of time when Israel's carrying out those operations, when international support can fade away or begin to ebb at least. What we've heard today from the Israeli Prime Minister is very bellicose rhetoric. He says that the military action that the world will witness Israel carry out in Gaza will echo through the generations in the Middle East. What we didn't hear from him was any acknowledgement of the monumental military and intelligence failure that ended up with what we saw over the weekend. We're watching video today that was taken in a kibbutz 10 hours after the first attacks, the first breaches of the security fence around Gaza. So 10 hours after the Israelis knew what was happening and they were rampaging these Palestinians through this kibbutz. They were looking for Israelis, they were pillaging, they were finding families, seizing them. We watched a harrowing video of a mother and her 2 young children being dragged away, and there was no sign of any Israeli military or any Israeli soldiers, apart from the fact that we saw deserted Israeli tanks. So I think there will be a huge post-mortem. There are already a huge amount of questions being asked of the Israeli Prime Minister, but at the moment Israelis want to see revenge and they want to see retaliation taken out, and most of all they want to see the threat from Gaza neutralised, and they want to see support from the outside world backing up that action.
Yeah, OK, Dominic, thank you very much indeed. Well, it's reported that more than 260 bodies have been recovered from the site of the Nova Festival, a one-day event which was being held in southern Israel. It was stormed by Hamas militants who fired at will at large crowds of music lovers. And as panic set in, festival goers ran for their lives or tried to find places to hide. And a warning, this report from our chief correspondent contains some images of those killed at the musical festival there.
A line of tanks have taken up a position in front of the trees and farmlands where an outdoor party was attacked by Hamas fighters. It's the most deadly act of terror in Israel's history. The road towards the party's location is now a heavily militarized area. A short distance away in Gaza, smoke rises after the latest helicopter gunship attack. The helicopters circle the area continuously. Trucks and cars used by the terror group remain where they were stopped by the Israeli Defense Forces. The bodies of Hamas fighters who stormed the festival lay where they were killed, on the side of the road or in fields as they attempted to continue the fight. Well, the party took place in fields and beyond this wood line. It's only, well, it's less than a kilometre away from here. The partygoers were attacked as they were trying to get out onto this road. And this is where some of them died, but these are also the Hamas fighters themselves. The bodies are still here. But it's an incredibly dangerous area. We're just talking to soldiers. They said there were rockets here only 20 minutes or so ago. This is effectively the front line. Gaza is really, really near. It's over there. But such is the state of this, if you like, well, actual war remains incredibly tense everywhere you go. Hai and Noam survived the massacre. They've lost friends, killed or abducted. They're now glued to the television for news.
The second photo, when we got the first strike.
Incredibly, as the initial rocket smashed into the party, they took selfies and sent them to their friends. They thought it would pass, so they hunkered down. Then they ran for their car.
And when the shooting starts, directly I push the gas and I go to the field that was on the right of me. I press the 4x4 button and I start driving. And Noam and I was hearing the shootings in our heads, and they hit the car, and we saw the jeeps and the motorcycles of Hamas pushing young children that they was under effect of drugs and alcohol. No heroic situation. They just butchered them.
This dashcam footage shows the Hamas gunmen going from car to car, abducting some and killing others. Hai and Noam escaped across fields in his Jeep.
I realized that in the other road, the left road that was traffic, in the exit, the terrorists just come with the gun and shoot everybody in those cars. And I remember that I want to go in this road because I thought it's the way out.
As the killing intensified, the partygoers began to flee across the fields by foot.
Nobody realized that it's going to be this huge situation. Nobody realized that there is going to come terrorists and kill a lot of people, like innocent people, that they just want to be with a friend, be happy, go to the party.
The military build-up along the borderline with Gaza continues. There is no doubt here that the war is just starting and will be long and bloody. Every day, as more details of the many attacks emerge, Israel is left reeling and shocked. This country wants revenge. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Southern Israel.
Well, tonight Hamas has threatened to kill one Israeli civilian hostage every time Israel targets people inside their homes in Gaza. But that's not what I heard from Dr. Bassem Naim, who's the head of political and international relations for Hamas. I spoke to him earlier and asked him how massacring young people at a music festival and kidnapping innocent civilians would further the cause of the Palestinians.
I am really shocked that you, as a well-respected journalist and well-respected channel, to adopt the Israeli propaganda. I think no one can confirm any of these news. We have the original story.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt. Are you saying that civilians have not died?
We didn't kill any civilians. It depends.
What about the 260 bodies? What about the 260 bodies at the music festival? Do you realise how absurd that sounds?
Now, within the operation, I cannot confirm this Israeli propaganda because we have also news and videos showing that Israel and what Israel is today doing inside Gaza, based on the so-called Hannibal doctrine, to kill thousands of Palestinians, including the hostages.
On that point, can you guarantee that these hostages will be safe from harm from you?
100%, I can guarantee this, because we have, first of all, the first message taken from the chief commander, Muhammad Adif, was clearly, don't kill elderly, don't kill women, don't kill children, treat hostages in a proper, human, dignified way.
Do you realise that with this attack and these atrocities, you will have alienated many people who have sympathy for the Palestinian cause? You may well have set back the Palestinian cause by many years.
Resistance is a just resistance against an oppression of 75 years. They know that this is the rule of war. Sorry, we are not playing with
my point is that millions of people may support the Palestinian cause, believe they have legitimate grievances, but there will not be millions of people who support atrocities like this.
This is your assessment. Who accepted your assessment that these are atrocities? We are in fight. We have the right to resist by all available means, including armed resistance. And anyone who attacked our homes, and my son was killed by an Israeli soldier on the border. Therefore, I have the right to defend myself and the rest of my family, even when I have to use all available tools, including armed resistance. They are soldiers around the border, taking 2.3 million Palestinians hostages inside the biggest open-air prison, which is called Gaza. Therefore,
but as
all
a
these
result,
people-
but as a result of this, let me just put this to you: as a result of what you have done, more than 700 Israelis, civilians, we're told,
not
are
civilians. Sorry,
dead.
not civilians.
And now,
they are not civilians.
and now,
they are not civilians. They are not civilians. You are defining them as civilians. You and the Israeli propaganda are defining. They are soldiers. Any lady who is sitting on the military compound, typing cyber orders, they are not civilians. They are soldiers. Is it
So
a lady or
700
a man,
Israeli
or
soldiers
a civil
have died.
uniform? They are soldiers. They are soldiers. In a uniform, without uniform, they are soldiers.
All we're dealing with are the facts that we are given. Let me ask you this. Are you expecting fighters in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, are you expecting Hezbollah to enter this fight with you?
We are calling all our people. I am talking about on behalf of Palestinians. I am not giving order to anyone outside Palestine or away from the Palestinian people, neither to Hezbollah nor to any other country. We are calling all our people in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, inside Israel itself, to stand up and to support the resistance of our people in Gaza Strip. Therefore, we are expecting sooner or later that they will join this battle, and Israel will not enjoy any security or prosperity or safety as long as our people are not secure or safe.
That was a Hamas official talking to me earlier. Well, you've seen for yourselves the images of people fleeing as the music played, and now you've heard the response from Hamas. Well, one of those still missing is 21-year-old Adi Maizal, who was attending the festival with a friend. Her family haven't heard from her since Saturday morning, the day of the attack, and her parents, Ahuva and Eli, join me now. And thank you very much indeed for being with us. And Ahuva, I know this is incredibly difficult for you, but just tell me, what was your daughter doing when the attack began? I gather she was, as I say, also at the music festival.
She went to celebrate.
She was dancing like everybody else. Like everybody else, she was celebrating.
Just celebrating with two friends, with a lot of people, to spread love and enjoy normal living. That's it. Simple thing.
My daughter went to a party, to an authorized party in her own country, not in a different country, not in an enemy country, in her own country. And she's not a soldier, and she had no weapon. And all the children in this party are not soldiers. They are children with no ability to protect themselves. This attack was planned, I don't know how many months ago. They knew they have this party. They knew there are going to be thousands of children without any ability to protect themselves. They shot them like ducks. They came in hundreds of terrorists with guns and automatically shooting everything that moves. They were sitting ducks, all those children. My Adi, my girl, was not a soldier. And this person who spoke before, Mr. Doctor, what is his name? Bassam Naim. You have to be ashamed to be called a human being. A human being who are doing such horrible things to human beings, to other human beings, is a disgrace to the humankind. I always believed personally that we should make a peace with all Arabs, with everything. I really believe that there are no really true and bad people. But these things that you do, you kill innocent people, you kill children, you keep those hostages in cages. You piss on their faces. You cut their faces. You rape them. You may rape my child. You have to be ashamed, doctor. Do you think anyone can believe your shit, your lies? Stop lying to the world. You killed at least 900 civilians, not soldiers. Innocent people.
Okay, and Ellie,
you broke in people's house. They came with a screwdriver.
But Ellie, let me talk. Ellie, let me just ask you: do you assume now that your daughter is in Gaza being held as a hostage?
I don't think about it. I just know that my daughter is a part of a massacre. We have nothing that indicates what's her situation. We have all clues that probably the worst happened, and we just imagine what those pure kids full of love had to go through in their last moments of their life. And then we have to listen to this Bassam Naim trying to talk, and you see that, you understand that it's not a human being. It's not a human being. It's not the logic of a human being. And the thing that happened now, from what they did to us, it's our whole nation become a soldier. Now you will understand what you have just said, that all of you soldiers, all of Israel is united. All of Israel is
together.
tuned. We know that the story of Hamas is the end of it. The end of it. Mr. Bassam should go and spend some time with his family and understand that every moment he has it, he has to be graceful. This is the situation of Israel. All of us from the top, we are all filled with love and revenge and the history of Hamas. That's very clear.
Yeah, well, listen, Ahuva and Ellie, we appreciate your time tonight, and I hope this all resolves itself.
I just want to say, sir, if I may say, I'm sitting here with my older son, with my first son, Omri, and I want you just to feel, to make him...
האנגלית שלי לא הכי טובה. אני רוצה להגיד עכשיו מכאן לכולם, לכל היהודים, לכל העולם, במיוחד בעם ישראל, ולכל הערבים, חמאס וכל מי שאיכשהו מגבה אותם ואיכשהו נותן להם רוח גבית. אני קורא עכשיו לכל האזרחים במדינת ישראל, מעבר לחיילים ומעבר
listen, I'm very sorry, but I'm afraid we can't understand what you are saying. But listen, I want to thank you all, and we apologize for the language, but you understand that the trauma that these people are under from that interview. Thank you all very much. Now, later in the programme, I'll be looking in more detail at how that attack began. Just before sunrise, it was a sophisticated and carefully planned attack. That much is certainly clear. So how did Israel miss it? And did Hamas have direct help from another state, namely Iran? Our security and defence editor, Deborah Haynes, has been assessing the evidence.
The unprecedented assault by Hamas struck at multiple points along Israel's border. They used land, sea and air in a level of sophistication that takes time to grow. Evidence has emerged of training in Gaza, but incredibly, without Israel noticing. Their tactics evolved too, perhaps learning lessons from the war in Ukraine. Even the number of rockets fired by Hamas were on a different scale, despite an Israeli blockade around Gaza that's meant to stop weapons and parts from entering. Instead, more than 3,500 rockets were launched in the first 24 hours of this war. That compares with a total of 4,300 fired by Hamas in an 11-day conflict with Israel 2 years ago, and a total of some 4,500 rockets and mortars in a 50-day war in 2014.
In the morning of Saturday, Israel was surprised twice. Once from the doctrine of Hamas, which was very different from the way we in Israel thought about the strategy or the intentions of Hamas, and second, from the capabilities of this organization.
But after decades of conflict, why go so big when Hamas knows the response from Israel will be ferocious? It's doubtless a product of festering tensions over lands, religion and rights. And it's further evidence of Hamas's extremist ideology and brutality. That alone is enough for the trigger. But questions are also being asked about whether the Palestinian group received direct support from a state backer like Iran. It's no secret that Iran, a sworn enemy of Israel, has long provided financial and military aid to Hamas, along with other militant groups in the region, such as Hezbollah in Lebanon. Iran has also watched with concern as Israel took steps to normalise ties with a number of Gulf states, even showcasing a prospective peace plan with Saudi Arabia at the United Nations. So far, there is no smoking gun, but if any evidence of direct Iranian involvement in the Hamas operation emerges, it would create an even more dangerous dimension to this already deadly crisis. It could even mean the weekend's attacks are just the opening salvo in a wider operation against Israel that could be joined by militants in the West Bank and Lebanon. One thing's certain. Israel sees this moment as its 9/11 and plans to hunt and destroy Hamas, just as the United States went after al-Qaeda back in 2001.
Well, our US correspondent Mark Stone is at the White House in Washington. And Mark, how worried are the Americans about an escalation of this conflict?
They are extremely worried. That was the first question I had for Admiral John Kirby, who is the National Security Council spokesperson, the spokesperson on foreign affairs effectively for President Biden, who I've just been talking to. He outlined the president's extreme anxiety over how this war could escalate, and it could escalate very, very quickly. That is why we have seen a strike group, an aircraft carrier, being moved to the eastern Mediterranean now. That is an aircraft carrier and 6 other vessels around it, not to intervene directly in Israel's Israel's operations in Gaza, but if this escalates more widely. I asked him, at what point does America become involved in this?
There's no plans to put U.S. boots on the ground in Israel in this conflict. That said, we will do what we have to do to look after our national security interests, and I won't go beyond that.
Let's talk about Gaza specifically. We have seen over the past decades what Israeli retaliation looks like in Gaza. President Biden has been quite clear that he's side by side with Israel. Is there a point at which that becomes more nuanced as we see civilian casualties in Gaza?
I won't get ahead of operations. I certainly won't speak for the Israeli military, what they're doing now or what they will do in the future. Israel has a right to defend itself, and I think we need, that is full stop moment. Absolutely true. They have, and they have now. The unspeakable violence has been visited upon them and their people. And we have to take that seriously, and we know the Israelis take that seriously. But look, we also share a lot of common values, democratic institutions, share respect for the law of war. I'm sure that those values will persist. Broadly speaking, Iran is complicit here because they've been supporting Hamas now for decades, resources, training, capabilities. But we haven't seen any specific intelligence, and the Israelis have said the same thing, that link Iran to these particular sets of attacks.
That matches what the US administration has been saying through the course of the weekend. They are not linking directly Iran with the specifics of this attack and any particular material help that Iran might have given for this attack. But it is quite clear that more broadly, the Americans are joining the dots. The Israelis are joining the dots much, much more tightly. But it's absolutely clear from President Biden and his spokespeople that they are really, really worried about where this goes from here.
Right, Mark, thank you very much indeed. Let's join our international correspondent, Alex Rossi, who is in the Lebanese capital, Beirut. And Alex, what more can you tell us about events on the or across the Lebanese border? These reports of a number of Hezbollah members being killed.
Well, Mark, picking up from what Mark was just saying from the US, it's easy to understand why in DC they are worried about the speed of developments when you bear in mind what has been happening here today. From early afternoon, there has been an exchange of fire between groups here on the border and the Israelis. It started with reports of infiltration into Israeli territory. That was later claimed by Palestinian Islamic Jihad. There was fire going both directions. Attack helicopters were used by the IDF. We've now got reports this evening that possibly as many as 7 Hezbollah fighters have been killed in the return fire. Hezbollah, incidentally, has said it wasn't taking part in any operations. We know that they've targeted Israeli Defense Force infrastructure on the other side of the border. And it's my understanding, Mark, this evening that those skirmishes, that back and forth, is still breaking out periodically tonight. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are heading for a broader conflict, but it is a really very worrying development.
Yeah, absolutely. OK, Alex, thank you very much indeed. Let's go back to that music festival close to the border with Gaza now. The attack there began as the sun was rising. Thousands had gathered to celebrate the end of the Jewish holiday. Using video from the day, Sky's data and forensic team has charted how the assault unfolded over 3 hours. Here's my report and a warning. It contains some distressing images.
The Supernova Festival in Israel ended abruptly after Hamas militants launched a deadly assault on the event, shooting into the crowds and grabbing hostages as they went. Here's what we know so far about how the attack unfolded. The festival began on Friday evening and took place in this rural area near the Gaza-Israel border in the Negev desert. Satellite imagery taken on Sunday shows the festival site. Here we can see one of the main dance areas, the Nova stage, visible in several clips shared widely online. This footage shows people partying in the early hours of Saturday morning. Witnesses reported hearing rocket fire in the distance and smoke could be seen in the sky behind them. Some of the crowd didn't hear explosions over the thumping music. Shortly after the music stopped, security staff began ushering people off-site away from the stages. Videos show people leaving hurriedly, appearing confused but not yet in panic. Gunfire was heard and people can be seen running into the surrounding fields to escape. Israeli security forces and local police appeared to set up defensive positions near the site as festival goers took cover before fleeing. Unverified footage posted on social media shows revelers taking shelter near the site. This video appears to show 25-year-old Noah Argamani being kidnapped by militants. Manhandled onto a motorbike, her arms outstretched, she begs her captors not to kill her. Dashcam footage from a vehicle at the site shows Hamas militants taking a man away. Someone is seen moving at the back of the car before a man approaches him and shoots him. Markings on this man's headband appear to match the Hamas logo. Rescuers said at least 260 dead bodies
have been removed from the site. An image shared by the Israeli military shows bodies of some of those killed in the attack. They are among hundreds dead across Israel so far. More than 120 burned cars and destroyed roads next to the site could be seen in drone footage. It is a scene of total devastation wrought on people who had come together in celebration. And Hamas says no civilian was killed. This is a Sky News special programme on the Israel-Hamas war. Coming up, we'll look in more detail at how Hamas planned and carried out its attacks inside Israel.
Big stories don't always come from big cities. I'm Lisa Dowd and I'm Sky's Midlands correspondent, and this is where I grew up. We can reveal that the driver who hit Harry Dunn is 42-year-old Anne Sakulas.
Just met the president and we never thought we'd get this far.
This is what they're up against. The wind is the really big problems. It is back-breaking work and the smoke is thick. It's been working well. Water levels are dropping, but no one knows what impact further rain will have. What would you do if this place wasn't open? We take you to the heart of the stories that shape our world.
It's really scary. We're terrified.
In this community, I'm told that everybody knows someone affected by COVID.
Hopefully this will be the last wave.
I never knew they would make it. It's amazing.
Change seems tantalisingly close in this corner of the UK. Wales was the first to introduce the plastic bag charge. This is my patch, my specialism. It's also my home.
Well, we heard from the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak a little earlier in the programme. More than 10 British or British-Israeli nationals are feared either dead or missing in these attacks. Nathaniel Young had been serving with the Israel Defence Forces when he was killed on the Gaza border on Saturday. His family shared a post on Facebook saying they are heartbroken and described him as full of life and the life of the party. His funeral was held today in Jerusalem. Bernard Cowan has also been identified by family members on social media as having been killed in the attack. He grew up around Glasgow but settled in Israel, where he lived with his wife and 3 children. 26-year-old Jake Marlowe is missing after the attack at the music festival where he was working as part of a security team. The country's embassy said he is missing near Gaza and has not been seen since Saturday morning. And today, photographer Danny Darlington's family have confirmed his death via social media. In an Instagram post, Danny's sister said, "My baby brother, Dan, was murdered by terrorists on Saturday morning on our kibbutz near Oz, alongside his beautiful friend Carolyn." By land, by sea, by air, the Hamas operation was said to have been a year in the planning. When it came, it was as ambitious as it was deadly, shocking Israel and the world. Sky's military analyst, Michael Clark, has been looking at how the attack unfolded.
Israel was shocked and the world was surprised by the Hamas attack on Saturday morning. How did they do it? Well, it began at 6:30 in the morning with a massive series of rocket launches from the Gaza Strip. It was said that about 3,000 rockets were launched, which simply overwhelmed the Iron Dome defensive system, the normally very good defensive system, which the Israelis run. And the Hamas organization were able to create coordinated rocket attacks in their thousands to simply overwhelm the defenses. Then they followed that up with attacks on the border posts themselves. They started at Zikkim with a seaborne attack from motorboats up in the north, and then they attacked the crossing points themselves at Erez, at Nahal Oz and Karim Shalom, where Israeli soldiers were simply unprepared and most of them were overwhelmed and many of them were killed or captured. It took a while for the next development to become clear, but then the Hamas organization bulldozed through the fence in the centre near the music festival that was going on, and once that was open, then, as you can see, it was a free-for-all for everybody to walk into Israeli territory, and some of these people looked more determined than others, but then the fence was open. There was even an attempt to use paragliders. This has captured the world's imagination. I don't think there were many of them. I'd be more convinced if there were 50 or 60 of them, but we're only aware of 1 and maybe 2. Nevertheless, it shows a certain amount of innovation in what Hamas were trying to do. It was 9:45 before the Israelis were able to respond. They really weren't sure what was going on, and they began to bombard Gaza at about 9:45. From then on, things moved really very, very quickly. Sometime around 10 o'clock, the attacks on the border post became attacks on the settlements. And so Erez and Rim were being attacked, and clearly things were moving inland. About 21 different areas were fighting, and there were 21 firefights going on by early afternoon. And by the middle of the afternoon, all of these places, Zerot, Nahal Oz, Bein, Urim, and Ofakim, were being attacked, and people were being taken away and taken as hostages. Ofakim is interesting simply because that's 20 miles inside Israel, 20 miles away. And so that was a very successful day for Hamas. There will be more days to come, and I don't really think they know quite what they've unleashed.
Michael Clark there, our Middle East correspondent Alistair Bunkle is with me now. So where are we with this awful story tonight?
I still think we're yet to see exactly what the Israeli response is going to be, and we're yet to see how that might trigger other fronts around the region. But what we have seen today is 2 things that signal what Israel's intending to do. The barrage against Gaza today has been enormous. And I think that shows us that they are taking no prisoners whatsoever. There is no mercy there. And then the comment from the Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant, that they're going to cut off water, gas, electricity, food, in order to basically try and starve Hamas into some sort of submission, is a sign that they're going to take a very ruthless approach to what is happening in Gaza. And that is going to continue over the next 24, 48 hours, and we'll see where it goes from there. but it risks bringing in other fronts.
Yeah, these are dangerous days. Alistair, thank you very much indeed. Well, it's been an extraordinary and horrifying 3 days, an assault on Israel, a declaration of war, more than 1,500 dead, and a looming humanitarian crisis. We end the programme tonight with the images and the sounds of this already bloody war.
איפה הייתם? איפה הייתם?